The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show. It's brought to you in association with Levi Solicitors, who will offer you 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan Moylan here, along with Michael Normanton and Daniel Chapman. That's Moscow White, sat opposite me over the other side of the table. We're on YouTube and we're in your podcast app. And right now, we're going to preview Spurs, the final one before the World Cup, 3 o'clock on a Saturday again.
Amazing stuff. Traditional final game of the year in November.
Yeah.
Good that these things are all being upheld.
We will be back before the end of the year. Just
that's true. Yeah,
the Man City game is the 28th, and then Newcastle is New Year's Eve.
It was weird saying "Have a good Christmas" to people as we left the ground on the weekend. Being like, "Yeah, I'll see you on the other side." I suppose it's worse than the shops for getting those things in early. But Spurs aren't very good, I don't think, are they? Should we just beat them?
Yep.
and then have a nice happy time?
I don't even have to say Leeds have got one of these results in us. I think we've genuinely got a sniff here. I mean, equally, as we don't know what the parameters for this season are at all, as we were discussing in the last few shows, the ceiling's quite high, the basement is quite low. Where we will fall on this one, I don't know. That was a good poem, wasn't it? But we've got the potential to cause them some upset, particularly because it seems like they like to tippy-tap around and do quite slow build-up, and we run around like headless chickens and chase the ball and kick it and things.
Well, they just don't seem to do first halves, is what I've taken from their games. I did actually watch them against Liverpool on the weekend. Second half, they were all over Liverpool and probably were just about good value for a draw, I would have said. But first half, they were crap. And when I didn't watch it, but I saw the Marseille stats, and I don't think Spurs had a single touch in the Marseille box in the first half.
Right.
So they just don't seem to bother with those. So if we can just get a few goals in then.
They just seem like they can't be bothered in general. I've had this feeling with Spurs ever since they got to the Champions League final. It all just seems like too much effort for them because they've got, Hugo Lloris is a good goalkeeper. Harry Kane is the England centre forward. You look through the team and you think, yeah, loads of good players and they've got a good manager. But when then they go out on the pitch and I was like, do we have to? They just don't seem like they could be bothered winning.
Is the word laboured? It's all very laboured, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to know what they want. Like, I don't know what improves Tottenham other than they all just cheer up. And I don't think Antonio Conte running them until they're sick is the person who's going to get them all happy and smiling and full of the sheer joy of living out on the pitch. But just a real bunch of miseries. And even and it says here that they started the season well and are now in poor form. I mean, they just beat Bournemouth and Marseille back to back. I mean, I lust for that kind of poor form. I would love it. But even their attempts at poor form is fine. That's all right.
Well, it's not where they want to be though. Losing to, I know you're saying they beat Bournemouth and Marseille back to back, but one's not in the Premier League. In the last Premier League games are a defeat to Liverpool, beating Bournemouth, and then defeats against Newcastle and scum. So,
but also that Marseille result got them through to the knockout stages of the Champions League, and
it's pointless.
And then they end up just going, oh yeah, do it. Can't be bothered. Who have they drawn? They've got Dortmund, haven't they? I think.
I can't remember.
Yeah, and that there's a lot of energy in Dortmund as well. So God, shouting at us, yellow wall. And it's all there on Harry Kane's face. He's not an inspiring person, and he's the captain. I think he sort of sets the tone, and he looks constantly like he just wants to go back to bed. So that's Tottenham.
Excellent. I love that summary based entirely in fact and research. Yeah. But it does feel like at some point it's just creaking towards Conte getting fired or walking out due to some sort of fallout.
I feel like he's got a walk out in him as Conte. Although mind you, he'll want the money, won't he? That's the problem. Managers never walk out anymore because they think, I'll just hopefully lose a few more games, then I'll get 9 million quid. It's worth hanging around for, isn't it?
Which you'd do.
I think I probably would.
I mean, that's what when you were at ITV, you were just hanging on for redundancy, and they wouldn't give you it, would they?
Painful, absolutely awful. So over the years, so many rounds of it. Why never me?
T-shirt,
yeah, full Balotelli. Yeah. Why never me?
Why never me? Please get rid of me.
But then I just feel like because the season started with Spurs and because they did do pretty well, I think they were unbeaten in the first 7 or 8 games, and they were title challenge maybe. Yeah, Conte, really good manager, been there, won it all in the past, hasn't he? And then they just started losing games, and it was like, oh no, very Spurs.
This is the Spurs we recognise.
Very Spurs. I mean, they're still fourth.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Spurs are always destined to be fourth to sixth, aren't they? At the minute, it just feels like no matter, they've got this big spaceship of a stadium in North London that's amazing, brings them loads of revenue, but they just seem destined to be fourth to sixth forever.
I mean, the stadium has entirely elevated them to a different level, hasn't it? Because the Spurs of my youth were kind of a bit worse than Leeds most of the time, is what I seem to remember. They always
had good players, though, didn't they? Lineker and Gascoigne and
Darren Anderton,
Klinsmann and
Sheringham,
Vinnie Samways,
Willem Korsten.
Yeah, well, they always had. I mean, I hated
David Howells.
Hated Stefan Freund with a passion, but always kind of a few interesting players knocking around and a decent manager, and
always benefited from being in London, I think.
Yeah, because you can drive. You can live in Essex, can't you, and then drive in, or Hertfordshire, whichever is nicer.
I think Hertfordshire.
But the new stadium should be just like give them that extra, like, oh, now you can play in London and we'll live in London and come to a nice stadium and we'll pay you lots of money. But they just, I mean, even that, you say they started losing games, they only lost 2 of the first 14. It's like, it's not really been it wasn't a massive slump. They've still only lost 3 more after that. And they're fourth. It's just, I don't know. And they all seem to be, but from this position, they do seem to be wearing all like the labours of the world. Maybe it's because Arsenal are winning the league. That doesn't help them.
No. But, well, to the actual nuts and bolts of this game, and Son is out injured, and he's one player who would really worry me in this game running at our defence, particularly if they start dropping balls in behind our fullbacks, which, spoiler alert, that's how you get in behind us, everyone.
Well, it was the Spurs game last year, wasn't it, where Luke Ayling looked at the bench and did a what the fuck am I supposed to do his really quick face at the bench because Son just kept turning and running in behind. So
he's had surgery to correct an unstable eye socket, I think it was, wasn't it? The injury, which
sounds bad.
Fairly horrific. Anything to do with eyes is not good, is it? And then we didn't have a Kane booking against Liverpool, so he will play. Will he want to put everything into this, though, with the World Cup coming up, captain and all that? Is he going to have one eye on that? I don't know.
Do you remember him at the start of the Euros?
Well, being absolute shit.
Yeah, it was chronic. So I don't know if there's kind of a real necessary need for him to be like, oh, I've got to build up my form going into the World Cup so I can start the group stage with a bang. It will just be the same old sort of shuffling, disinterested looking.
And congratulations on your goal as well.
Yeah, he'll score probably, but like.
And this is the thing, right? I know we're kind of just having a bit of fun there, picking apart Spurs and their weariness, but they have got loads of good players. And
Eric Dyer is always good for an own goal, though, isn't he? So
and they are fourth in the league, but they can't.
And their fullbacks can't cross. That's the one thing that might be good for us. The way we set up, because they'll be attacking through. It's Emerson Royale and Sessegnon, isn't it? Just every time they go forward, I think that's part of why Harry Kane just has such a disappointing life, is because he's watching those crosses just sail over his head and out for a goal kick.
Was it Emerson Royale who was playing against Liverpool and just kept floating crosses into the stand? And there was quite a lot of murmuring going on.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. You've got, the best England striker in a generation in the 6-yard box, and you've got this sending you right back forward, who's booting the ball over his head. It's great. It's no wonder they all look so sad.
And you wonder, because they play 5 at the back or 3 at the back, whichever way you want to dress it up, does this help us in that they're hopefully not going to have like loads of overloads out wide?
If they signed James Bree, they could have a Royale with cheese. I know you were trying to think of a cheese pun earlier. Just came into my mind there.
Thank you.
There you go. You can have that.
Excellent.
Fits in perfectly, doesn't it?
Enjoy that. But yeah, they're fourth. They're good. They've got loads of good players. And yet, you look at the way that we've performed against some sides that are up there. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And that's not me going into this, being blasé or too optimistic. But, if we've shown we can do one thing, it's rattle sides who are closer to the top. So let's give it a whiz, shall we?
And I think the crowd can definitely get annoyed at them. If we can be competitive in the first half, they'll be upset, and we'll have some teams like Leeds discussion in the post game,
which will be good for propaganda.
We should deal with WhoScored.com's assessments of them, because we've been a little bit concentrating more on the character rather than the characteristics. So we need to get into the real statistical analysis.
Tactical discussion, Moscow.
Some tactical discussion. So their weaknesses are defending against long shots. So there's an argument there that Sam Greenwood starts. They're weak at stopping opponents from creating chances, which helps because we're quite bad at creating them. They're very weak at avoiding individual errors. So we need Brendan Aronson tackling Hugo Lloris. and they're very weak at defending against skillful players. So Somerville, Gnonto to start.
Cool.
I mean, there's a genuine question there. I mean, I suppose it'll be influenced by the Wolves game, which is tonight. So we don't know quite what is going to be the team selection there. But I mean, there's an argument to say Gnonto should start because Harrison has not been great, and I know he's changed position, hasn't he, in this system, and it's not particularly worked for him. I can't remember the last time he played well. Well, he's not always been awful.
When he was on his good wing.
When was that? Feels like a long time ago.
Well, we were saying on the other show, it was like as soon as Phil Hay did his article pointing out how good he was going down the left, Marsh has put him on the right and he's been terrible.
Oh, Jinxie
So it's
Hay.
Phil Hay's fault.
Yeah. Strengths, they're good at counter-attacks and coming back from losing positions. So if we go in front...
It's another 4-3, isn't it?
We're going to have to go miles in front. Do what Marsh said and score in a big cluster of like goals. Score once, twice, three times, 4 times, 5.
Their style of play, though, is playing in their own half, which is helpful because we like the Gegen press, don't we? So if they're Gegening, we can press them.
Yep.
And then that's how that works. So we don't need to worry about too much pressure on Cooper or Robin Koch at the back.
They seem to be quite good at creating and finishing scoring chances, though, which is...
Because they got Harry Kane.
Which is basically our kryptonite.
I mean, the goals, Harry Kane, 11, and then everyone else, well, it's Højbjerg and Son got 3 each, which is pathetic. So
Fair enough.
they're just relying on Kane, which is why it's a bit of a shame that he didn't pick up that booking.
If there's one man we can get at, Eric Dyer.
He always looks confused as Eric Dyer, doesn't he? I think he's got an unfortunate face in that regard. He looks baffled by the world.
Yeah,
and Lloris as well. We can get Ilan Meslier to give him some Nathan Jones style insults in his own tongue.
Yeah,
because they share it.
Like, I'm coming here to replace you next summer when you leave. That kind of thing.
I'm kind of hoping there's a bit of a full fist fight between Marsh and Conte on the sidelines. I feel like there's potential for it.
Marsh is very zen these days, so he's calmed right down.
Lay out your terms, though, Mike. How's this going to unfold? How's it going to unfold? Who's going to win? Is it going to be shirts off? What?
There'll be
any hair pulling?
It was Conte and Tuchel, wasn't it, with the bizarre handshake earlier in the season. I'm not sure who was the aggressor in it, but it was like a... It was you let go. No, you let go. How dare you hold my hand?
For the audio listener, we have a recreation there going on.
Yeah, so that was good. But I think Marsh should do that with him, but then nut him.
Well, you got to remember
and try and loosen some of his hair.
Do you think Marsh should fight quite dirty?
Yeah, I reckon
like pulling armpit hair and stuff.
He'd have some wrestling tricks from the YMCA back in the day, wouldn't he?
As well, I reckon Marsh has got the flex in his leggings to deliver some high kicks as well, whereas Conte's Italian trousers won't.
His leggings.
They won't allow for that.
Marsh he's straight off to Peru. He's best man at somebody's wedding, isn't he? So he doesn't want to be turning up for that with his face all Charlie Cresswell. So he might have to just let Conte off. I'll let him live this time because I've got to...
Well, rules of engagement could be no face.
That's true.
Just neck downwards.
Why don't fourth officials let managers...
Like in ice hockey, just let them have it out for a bit.
Because really, no one actually wants a fight, do they?
No.
They want to appear to want to fight, is what managers do.
Hold me back.
So it'd be great if one time the fourth official went, no, I think you should hit him. See what happens.
I heard what he called you.
He said you were the... He said he'd shit on your prostitute mother or whatever PK said. So knock him out, as far as I'm concerned. And if Mark Jackson wants to knock someone else out...
Oh, Mark Jackson definitely wants to knock somebody out. Maybe that's Marsh's tactic as he unleashes Jacko.
The old Northern Premier Jacko or whatever division he ended up in.
Cameron Toshak looks quite handy. I'm not sure about Randy Marich.
No, Marich is a bit of a...
he's a blogger, isn't he? It's like sending me out to fight somebody. It's ridiculous. Whereas if you want to have Big Tosh, he can lead the way and I'll be behind him. We'll hit him. Go on.
Well, the good news about this is that because we beat Bournemouth, we can't finish in the relegation zone for the World Cup.
Woo!
So I think from a mental standpoint, in terms of how everyone feels for this long layoff, because that's the worst thing about, like when the Queen died and the games got postponed and we'd kind of gone into this bad run of form before that and then it extended after. It went on forever, didn't it? It just went on forever without a win. We didn't get a win between August and October.
I mean, pre-Liverpool, I fully expected we would be in the relegation zone come the break. So
to not be
is nice. Like you're saying, just to not have to think about it quite as much.
And
That's all changed quite quickly because Marsh's best man speech at this wedding would have had to have so many kind of like, it's nice to be here and I might as well stay here because I don't have a job anymore. Like there would have had to be so many kind of self-deprecating kind of references to being sacked, whereas now he can be fully, he can tell everybody about what a great time he's having and pretend it's going well. Yeah, it's all fine. Oh, don't worry about what you saw in the papers. Like, I sorted that. It's cool. Oh, well done, Jesse. Like, it's fine.
There we go. So should we just go to Spurs and win? Because that would be nicer than anything else. I mean, a draw would see us potentially, depending on what Brentford do at Man City, would see us finish 11th, which would be,
nice.
That's top of the bottom half. So you get something for that, don't you?
I believe so, yeah. Yep. Some sort of a shield, I think, for doing that.
It's a plate cup vase, yeah.
It's a weirdly tight league. Apart from when you look at the goal difference, then the bottom four does appear to be sort of cut off if we're just going to look at that. I know you're like looking at your goals scored, Dan, but
you have got to use it as a guide. There's a guy whose name escapes me who tweeted us this morning. Let me just dig out his name.
I saw this one.
Yeah,
some sort of
using you remember doing Pythagoras at school, which was about the triangles and all that jazz. Well, it's the statistical. I looked into it. Statistical method of working out based on the goals that you score and the goals that you concede, roughly where you should finish. It's born out of baseball, but it's been applied to other different sports since then. Exactly how and why it applies to football is not completely clear to me because you've got to use a certain multiplier. It's anyway. All I'll say is, looks interesting, and it's got us finishing 13th, which is about where we're supposed to be. Yeah,
I'll take it.
I mean, the one thing to say going into this is it's kind of a bit of a cliche about how hard it is to win.
It was Michael Rogerson, by the way, who is Weird Al's dad on Twitter.
Thanks, Michael. About how difficult it is to win back-to-back games in the Premier League. It's kind of, if you're a bottom half team, that's one of your targets. If we beat Spurs, we would win 3 in a row. And Spurs, who are 4th, have not managed that in the Premier League this season. They've done back-to-backs twice. And I know we're still only like 15 games, 13, 14. FB ref includes...
How many games? You invented new numbers?
It includes the postponed matches.
We've played 13. This will bring us up to 14.
Right. They've played 14, so this will bring them up to 15. So, but it's a fair chunk of the season not to be able to win more than 2 in a row. And that's Spurs, and they're pretty good, millions of pounds worth of players and cheese. So if we manage to go into the break with Liverpool, Bournemouth and Spurs all knocked off one by one, that's a remarkable achievement. And Jesse Marsch, new contract time, everybody's happy and nothing can possibly go wrong from then on. But that's maybe the context in which to put our inevitable defeat, because winning 3 in a row is really, really hard. So be fine with losing.
Yeah, we never managed it last season, did we? I was just looking at the only times we managed back-to-back wins last season, both bought completely false dawns of thinking we were safe, because West Ham away, do you remember that one?
Yeah, it was good fun, that.
Played well, won. It was like, table looks all right. And then Wolves away. That was another one after it. You looked at the table and went, that's huge. We're probably going to be all right now. Yeah. And then there was still that absolutely dreadful collapse and panic at the last minute of the season. So nothing is to be taken for granted, is it? But
apart from beating Spurs.
Apart from beating Spurs, obviously.
There's your Spurs preview done and dusted. Part 3 of the show coming up in your YouTube feed as well. Look out for that. We're going to do the week's heroes and villains.
The Square Ball Podcast.